What's up, everybody? We are here. We're here. We're not anywhere else. So, continuing the Balkan summer of chess streams, we've got. We had to keep Astrobate after school, basically. Good to see you, Mr. Slowhand, here in the stream. Last Roy. Mr. Slow is referring to his his study where he submitted Geller's games in the Roy Lopez to our stream. So after this little warm-up hors d'oeuvre, we should call it an hors d'oeuvre, by Astrobate, we've got Mr. Slow's Hubner versus Geller matchup, which is gonna be interesting. The young Hubner against Geller. We have, or younger. Hubner, of course, passed away, sadly. We've got, so Astrobate, Hubner, Geller, a very rare submission from Schieberspieler. And then Arsenal didn't really submit a game, but he did mention Richard Brenton's game against me from the Simul on Sunday. There was an interesting variation he suggested. So I put that in there. And there's also Sun Prism against the special guest opponent, which is game number 5. So I only have 5 so far. This is like a very small selection. Can you guys hear me? All right. So is anyone still alive? We're going for 75 viewers average. I'm International Master. Welcome to I'm International Master, the only one. Welcome to my stream, everybody. I'm International Master, Balkan guy. So, what's that? Arsenal fan, good evening. Good evening, chaps. Chappies. So, our World Senior donation goal up to 1,499 cents. We've got 79 days to go. Speaking of which, I have to send in my entry fee. I have 1 month to the deadline of September 1st. And I've noticed that a lot of people have already registered for the World Senior, so I'm probably going to get priced out of the best hotel if I don't register now. World Senior in late October, something like October 20 in Italy. The late part of October in the southern part of Italy. My next tournament, hopefully. So if you can, please support the stream and donate, gift a sub, etc. Welcome, everybody. Today's analysis stream, we're going to be taking submissions. I've got 5. Tentative suggestion in that I put your position against the position you suggested, Arsenal fan, with Richard Brenton. We could take a quick look at that in lieu of a submission. But first we're going to get started with Astrobate's hors d'oeuvre. So we're a little bit late to start. This is Astrobate playing black. I'm going to flip the board. I know Mr. Slow is here. Arsenal is here. I'm here. Astrobate is here. All the bots have been wiped out. There's only 4 viewers in my stream. So they're really cracking down on those bots. Unless they're from chess.com or the St. Louis Chess Club or something like that. Okay. So S666. No. SG_66 playing against Astrobate. This game is from 725. So Schieberspieler's here. Got a strong contingent. The average rating of our viewers, well, Astrobate brings it down a little bit, but the average rating of our viewers is pretty good so far. Mr. Slow, Schieberspieler, welcome. We got a game for Schieberspieler, and yeah, that's it. So let's get started with Astrobate's mini game. E4, C5. Astrobate's opponent plays C3. Now, I just have to say that we've seen a lot of games here on the stream from amateur opponents playing against Astrobate, And what's the percentage chance you get opponent rated 1600 on lichess playing the c3 Sicilian? You know what I mean? Like, not many people play the c3 Sicilian at this level. That's actually really rare. Yeah. I mean, the c3 Sicilian is something you see, like, intermediate players playing a lot. Like, 1900, 2000 plus. It's a great move, obviously. But, rare to see, like, weaker players really trying to play it. And if they do, I don't think they generally know what they're doing. Astrobate here with d5. It's a great move. I think the best moves are the moves that upset White's strategic plan. I mean, we could say this at all levels. But White's plan is to establish ideal pawn center. So anything we could do to disturb the equilibrium, The move I like the least, 6% in lichess Blitz Rapid database, 1800 level. Very rare, I mean, there's got to be like 1 million people who play bishop c4. I can imagine like queen f3 is probably more popular than c3 at the 1600 level. But that's kind of subtle, All right, so c3. And then, as I said, like the best moves are knight f6 and d5, the moves that attack the e4 pawn. Thereby, like... So even bishop c4 is still not as popular as knight f3. That's interesting. You thought it might even overtake it. Other option is to play the French. A French-like setup with e6 and knight to c6. Astrobate, you have played this in the past. And the problem with knight c6 is, like I've talked about, with this idea of the d4 pawn pushing, and so you end up playing bowling, where the knight is like a bowling ball going to get hit by d4 d5. Knight c6 isn't as good. There is an interesting move though. After d4, one thing I don't really understand is Schieberspieler, tell me what you think. But every time I see this happen, I can't help but wonder, like, why is this the only line that people ever play with black? Because couldn't black play d5 here? It's something that bothers me a little bit. Like, why is that move not played, as opposed to c takes d, c takes d? This is totally off the subject of what we're doing. Just a funny question. I looked at one Nimzovich game where he played the c3 Sicilian. His opponent played, it was someone strong. I forget now. CD, d5. But why exchange pawns and give White this good square for the knight on c3? Snedsteg with 500 bits. Now we're looking at hype trains. Because White is playing c3 for the big center, they don't want to trade it off while allowing black to develop. Yeah, so the interesting option is that Schieberspieler. I think that people are afraid of, like, d takes c5. But can you believe this? Can you even believe this? Completely playable, kind of interesting position is actually only played in one over-the-board game ever. I mean, this is impossible. Like, I think I looked at this with the engine, and it suggested d takes e4 going into this ending, which is not uncommon in the c3 Sicilian, but another possibility would be for black to actually sack a pawn. You recently started working. Oh my god. No. So there are even lines where black doesn't take the pawn back right away. Knight f6, e takes d5. Anyway, just a suggestion, like, if you want to play something different against the c3 Sicilian, this line, like, alter ego Achilles versus Allen's account. Okay. Cluster Wraith. So the only games that are there are computer games. Put it in your notes. Yeah, it's really weird, I mean, it's just weird that this has never been played. Now, if you played against a top player, they're probably going to play pawn takes pawn, and after queen takes, will transpose. But I just find it kind of interesting. Anyway, okay, Asterbait plays d5. His opponent plays knight f3. This is bad. This is bad, and it makes me think of my former teammate Pro Rock Martin, who used to play all kinds of retarded gambits and stuff. Looks like something he would do with white. But congratulations on working. Alright. D takes e4. Thank you guys for your support. Mr. was once better at chess. Has tip 3333. Not to mention, Asterbait adding 25 bits. So we have 500 bits from Senstig, 25 bits from Asterbait, and Mr. was once better at chess, tipping 3333, bringing us up to 1434.32. And I'm trying to understand the significance of that. But the honest truth is that there is no significance of 1434.32. Hype train possible. Asterbait's donation doesn't count. I think it has to be 100 minimum. Anyway, knight f3, d takes e4. Now, there is the possibility of queen a4 check here. But white doesn't have to play that, you know. Would Pro Rock Martin, my ex-teammate, not go like here or something? I don't know. Okay, queen a4 check. And now Asterbait, what do we do? You have a legitimate choice here. There's something to be said for bishop d7, because on bishop d7, queen takes e4, this bishop looks like it has a lot of potential. 33 is a chunky bet. Maybe, I don't know. It looks like Asterbait's opponent is named like 6666 from a distance, and Mr. Slow like cut it in half or something. Or it's double, it's like double basically Asterbait's opponent's rating. How's that for a conspiracy theory? Holy shit. Almost. It's not, though. If you double Asterbait's opponent's rating, it's only 3330. So Mr. Slow threw in another 3 bits. Alright. So Asterbait, I think bishop d7 deserves to be considered. Nevertheless, knight c6 is fine. And we transposed to an old game. 1993. I don't know if Sultan Chapo is still alive or not. He was an old player who used to play in a lot of First Saturdays. Like the FM group. But here's a game from 93. So, queen a4 check. And now knight e5. So that's an aggressive move. The Chapo Zoltan played. But this move gets the pawn back. Looks principled. So opponent is probably not that bad here. But it's another tempo with knight f6. Now he has to decide where to put his queen. You know, and I think the computers are always going to go for queen f4. The 95 is a tempo for Fajarowicz, tempo up Fajarowicz. Computer's probably going to go for queen f4, but not necessarily, because it is possible I could hit that queen with knight d5. I don't know. I think that queen h4, queen e3, queen back to a4, queen f4, all of these moves deserve to be considered. Queen c2, obviously kind of passive. I think that's probably a little too passive. But anything's possible. Okay, queen e3. It's not so easy to take advantage of the queen on e3. I mean, the problem with queen h4 is that ultimately it might end up getting... It might get hit by like bishop e7. But by that time, white can probably get in like d3, bishop g5. It is a lot offsides either way. So, you know, the central squares look kind of appealing. In fact, I mean, I mentioned this, but I think that queen g3 should be okay there. You know, maybe queen f4 is good. Now I'm curious. Queen e3 is the best move. According to Stockfish version 17.1 at depth 24. Queen e3 is narrowly the best move. Interesting. So guy finds it. Now knight d5. Acerbate chasing the queen. So queen e4, knight f6, queen e3 draw. I guess you could play f5 if you felt inspired, but I think that looks kind of dangerous. I wouldn't play f5, certainly. We have other options like g6. So the opponent doesn't play queen e4, he plays queen g5. I don't know, man. Spiller, are you going for the queen trade with e5? We know how much you love to trade queens. How about a Marazzi queen trade? Queen takes d8, king takes d8. I'm not real sure about this. You know, I don't think so. The queen is off. It's off on the side of the board, so not really a situation where we want to trade queens. My first reaction would be like g6 to try to develop without trading queens. You know, another obvious move is f6, but we're going to be weakening our light squares to some degree. If f6, then e5, right? That's very principled. That's got to be good. f6 has got to be good with the idea of e5. There's some white square weaknesses, but we can play bishop e6, and white's queen is misplaced. There's no doubt, you know, queen g5 is kind of sketch. So h6 I don't quite like as much. Queen g3. Still, Acerbate follows up well. You should start playing the London system, man. If you like h6 and bishop f5, maybe the London system is for you. Or the Caro-Kann. But bishop f5 is logical to follow up your h6 with that. At least now h6 has some sort of purpose. I think this is an interesting move. Bishop b5. And the whole day I looked at some of Acerbate's games, and he keeps getting in situations where he has double isolated pawns. Or just generally like ending up with bad pawn structures, and Acerbate, you know, he needs to pay more attention to pawn structure. Definitely. But here, what do you play? You know? What do you play after bishop b5? That actually looks like a pretty good move. How about the threat of knight e5? Is this not an issue? I mean, rook c8 seems like pointless because of knight e5. We can't really prevent the doubling of pawns, so we should just allow it. So then what's the point? You know, if we play e6 or something, white has this. We could play maybe bishop d6. No. g7's hanging. This is not so easy, man. You know, another thing I'd like to point out is that when the opponent plays something like the c3 Sicilian and then has his pawns on dark squares, and this is like more for beginners, intermediate players. Thanks, Spiller, for a logical suggestion. Queen b6, I couldn't think of it. There white probably has to play, I guess. We would assume this queen b6 is a good move. That's a good move. White probably has to play knight a3, and then you could play a6. It looks like. I guess there things start to get kind of weird, because if bishop a4, I don't know. I mean, do we want to play like bishop d3? This is getting very strange now. No. I'm not even sure about a6, honestly. Maybe we'll actually cut the losses. But I'm not really sure how to get myself, you know, developed without running into this knight e5. In retrospect, maybe bishop f5 wasn't as good as it seems. And h6 may have not been as good as it seems, because we end up queenside castles. You know, Spiller, you keep coming up with good moves. It's not the safest setup, but It's also probably the best move. Yeah, yeah, I agree. This is probably our best. Black's gonna have to be careful, but he has pretty good development. Okay, so that's maybe what should happen. Black plays knight f6 instead. Terrible move. This is what Astrobate consistently does. He plays dreadfully in like late opening. Almost like he's handicapping himself, and then he starts to play well. But you've already lost time, and now you're just voluntarily retreating your knight back from d5 to f6 for no apparent reason. What planet are you from? You know, how can Black play this move? It's too hot in here. All right. It's either too hot or too cold, no matter what I do. All right, knight f6, castle, Smurfette, welcome. Bro, you're not developing. What the heck are you doing? Knight e4? The queen's not even trapped. He can go to e5, just saying. It looks like objectively White's regretting the choice of the queen move, but maybe f4. Because we want to have a way to get out here, back to e3. I'm going for the Balkan, John Wayne. Alright, queen f4. Queen h4, not as good. Because g5 is queen no more. Oh, I see. He can sack. Oh, so he just sacks a knight. Okay, because the queen is trapped after queen h5, knight f6. So Astrobate got really lucky here, as usual. I mean, this has got to be better. And I imagine that White is better here. Black's not worse. Wow. So much for king safety. Black is not worse. That's unbelievable. After all the Astrobate is done, you know, knight d5, knight back to f6, knight e4, and he's still not worse. It almost seems unfair. The computer still thinks that Black is a tiny bit better after queen f4, but this is a total blunder. White loses a piece. Queen h4, g5, knight takes g5, knight takes g5. Okay. Oh my god. So yeah, no, castle and queenside is definitely on the agenda. And now queen a4. Well, I have bad news for the rest of the pieces here. These guys are not going to enter the game. The current state of affairs is that White has 2 pieces developed, Black has 3. It seems like it's like a battle as to who's going to like develop less pieces in this game. Queen d5. Now, Astrobate, admit the truth. Like, is this the reason why you played knight d5 back to f6? I thought that you actually were planning on bringing your queen to d5. Back on move 9, when you pulled your knight off of d5 to come back, there was also this knight e4 idea, but I had the feeling you were trying to do queen d5. So it ended up happening. d4. And now, Astrobate got lucky with another little trick. So knight f3 check. Neat idea. Yep. Alright, here's a question. If king h1, what's your move? Simple question. If king h1, what's your move? I think I see a good idea. If king h1, bishop h3. Maybe it's not so good, though. He just takes it. It's not mate. It's really not, it's not clear. It's just not that clear. We have stuff we could try, maybe queen d6, but then the king pops out. You know, there's no guarantee there. So, I'm just wondering if Astrobate should have the other way. We got to look at knight h3. And you played knight f3. What about knight h3? King here. This is so close, yet so far away. Rook G8, F3. No mates. I don't think we can checkmate weight by weight. Maybe by height, but not by weight. Knight H3, King H1, yeah. There's no mates, Acerbate. Check, King H1. Anyway, King H1 is forced. Rook G8. Rook G8, C4. There's no mate, but anyway. Okay, takes. Oh no, Acerbate, you didn't see the mate? You're kidding me. Oh, Rook takes G2, you want to be like Tao. Yeah, this is a bishop F4. You gotta be like Cookie Monster. Seriously, you haven't met Cookie Monster. He was here. American player, Eric Cook. Maybe you did. Probably you could have back in the day. I don't know. All right. Bishop F4. Yeah, it doesn't work. It's a nice move, Rook takes G2, but White does have a defense there with Bishop F4. So, it's again, no mate. Sorry, Acerbate, there is no forced mate. Anyway, we're going to finish our little miniature here with takes. And now you missed the mate with Rook G8, though. That's a mortal sin. Acerbate, it's forced mate with check, and you didn't do it. Very disappointing. Queen takes F3. Is it still mate? He can't try to get away. So let's say, whatever, you can ignore this whole thing. There is the possibility of like Rook E1, right? Oh, I see. So Rook G8 check, King F1, and then you have the old Bishop D3 or Bishop H3. It just takes a few moves to actually checkmate White. He can't get out of the mate at this point. And Acerbate never had the castle queenside. Very efficient, Acerbate. Very efficient. All right, man. What is there to be said for this game? Well, White plays a ridiculous opening, and then here's where Acerbate starts this, what I want to call like behavior, where he's moving the same pieces twice. Now, by the way, we didn't even mention Queen takes C5. And I think that this deserves to be mentioned. I mean, I think this is probably some sort of like playable pawn sacrifice, but I'm not convinced, you know. I mean, E5, Queen B5. What's the evaluation here? Better for black. It's that good. Wow. I didn't think it might be that clear, but it is that good. Taking the pawn is that good. Yeah, he should have gone back to E4. All right. Next game, we've got Robert Hubner versus Yefim Geller. And then Schieberspieler versus, we need a nickname. I don't know. I need a good nickname for Kishlik. And then we've got, does Kishlik have a nickname? He was like the kid that I couldn't, when I was a little kid, there was this neighbor that wouldn't leave my house. He used to come over to play with me once in a while, and it was one of those neighbor friends that like won't leave, and my parents would like get irritated. Like, this little kid never leaves. I had that problem with Kishlik. Like, he came over my house to analyze once, but he wouldn't leave. It was like, it was weird. It brought back these like flashbacks of when I was like a little kid. All right. Yeah, you get isolated here. He is a weird guy, you know. He was a weird guy. But they got to give him credit. He did improve. He's a hard worker. Okay. Knight F6. I don't know whatever happened to him. I heard he was like, you know, running a Russian troll farm or something. All right, what are we going to do? Queen takes e4, knight f6, queen e3. This game is over. Next, we've got Robert Hubner versus Geller. All right. So Robert Hubner versus Geller. This is the last game of Mr. Slow's submissions. The Mr. Slow series. Geller on the Roy Lopez. Having what? Having politely suggest that it's getting late. Yeah, we all have that friend. You know, that it wasn't really a friend. It was like this kid that only came over to my house like once or twice. He lived across the street. We weren't really friends. They were kind of weird. But anyway, you know, his parents like were very strange. Once I remember the father got electrocuted or something. The ambulance came to the house. It sounds funny in retrospect. I mean, he didn't really get hurt, but I just remember my parents telling me, "Oh yeah, the guy across the street like electrocuted himself." One of those like weird neighbors. All right. Anyway, I'm lonely. You know, I need more friends. I just start talking about like random stuff. So this is Hubner against Geller. E4, E5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, and then a6. And now this game, by the way, is from Palma de Mallorca Interzonal Tournament 1970. This is our last Geller game from last Roy game. Okay, well, you guys, you know that the Roy Lopez is like the most important opening by Soviet training principles. A6, I'm not sure if that's the case anymore. You know, no one's playing the Roy Lopez anymore. Bishop a4. Now everyone plays the Italian game, which is really disgusting. How do you feel about the bishop's opening, Mr. Slow? Good. It's probably good against weaker players. I know you were trying to play it a little. I was curious. I played a few games of the bishop's opening. You're fine with it. Okay. Anyway, knight f6, castles, bishop e7, and now... So we see another whirl. It's going to say Warmald. No, now it says whirl attack. Can somebody explain to me the difference between the whirl and the Warmald? Maybe there is a difference. So this says whirl attack. Now, hold on a second here. Because if you play it right away... Ah. Wow. Do you guys think this is for real? So queen e2 on move 5 before white castles is called the Warmald attack. That's less common, right? That is less common. Black hasn't played bishop e7. White hasn't castled yet. It's very early to play queen e2. But when we see castles, bishop e7, queen e2, this is now the more well-known whirl attack, which was popularized by Sergei Tivyakov for many years. So what's the difference here? I mean, I think there are some differences. The fact that black is committed bishop e7 means that black can't play bishop c5. So perhaps black is committed to a slightly more passive setup versus playing queen e2 a move earlier. But as I pointed out, like I find in the anti-martial lines, a lot of times, what I did try playing queen e2 against the Berlin, by the way, which is a very rare sideline on move 4. I forget what that's called. But it's always seemingly like the rook castling, black castling, and playing the rook to e8, facing off with the queen on e2. And sometimes, of course, you know, you have stuff like the queen gets attacked by knight coming to like h5. The queen is actually... I can't highlight the square. The queen is more vulnerable at e2 as opposed to normal Roy Lopez lines. But it's, okay, not that easy. I mean, you can pin the knight with bishop g4. You can play knight h5, knight f4. You can play rook e8, d5, and hope that the rook plays against the queen on e2. Just thinking of the different ways that black can try to sort of react with that queen being on e2. So mainline b5, bishop e3, and now castles. And of course, why should black play d6? You know? Why should black play d6? There's no pressure on black's position. We should keep our option to play d5. I mean, the only possible reason to play d6 would be to play a quick, like, bishop g4. Arsenal fan, sorry to see you go so early. You're earlier, Arsenal, you have to go? Because earlier you asked if I could take a look at a game. The game from the Simul, and I totally ignored you. I didn't totally ignore you, but I did forget what you had said. If you'd like to, I'll take a look at that game. So absolutely. Bishop e3. Yeah, I'm in too much pain. All right. Mental pain or physical? So now b5, bishop e3, castles. I hope you feel better. Dental pain. Castles, c3. Yeah. I have a stupid question, but what about knight c3? Why is that bad? This has only been played in a couple games. I mean, if you want to stop d5, that's one way to stop d5, right? What could possibly go wrong? Well, the main idea of the whirl is to play like c3, rook d1, and sort of d4. I mean, I guess in these type of lines we were playing like a Vienna. You're turning it into a Vienna, effectively. Hope you feel better, Arsenal. You would stop d5 for good. Yeah, I mean, the idea is... Yeah, I mean, knight d4 is a good move now. It's unclear, because this pawn gets dragged to d4. That's not really good for black in a pawn structure sense. So let's say knight d5, bishop takes d5, c6, bishop b3. This is almost never a good thing in itself for black's strong point to get dragged to d4. That's unclear. It looks like it's about equal. But anyway, I just was wondering if knight c3 would be a playable move. Stopping d5. It is. So anyway, this is the main move. But now black's going to play d5. He doesn't have to. But look at the score. It's very clear. There's only one other move that has a better score. And that's rook e8. So if knight g5, we have an improved fried liver. Rook e8, Svidler Aronyan, 2008. This move has only been played on, what, 12 occasions. Rook e8, d4. So this is interesting. And now every single player played bishop f8. Well, there's just 4 games. One of my friends I have a lot of friends. E takes d4, c takes d4, d5. Not one player finding this continuation for black. It is interesting. So d5 best, but nevertheless rook e8, interesting move. Okay, and if rook d1, then we would play bishop f8. In any case, white doesn't want to play like rook d1 and then play d3. That's ridiculous. Never play c4. An interesting and very specific name you've got there. Uh, anyways, so we have Geller with black playing d5. This is main line. And so now, it's not the marshal. And that's the important thing to realize about this whirl, the whirl attack. It's not the marshal, it's the queen on e2. But let's take a quick look and see what happens if you play pawn takes pawn. I've never looked at this. I always knew that people just played d3, and I never really stopped to think about it. But what happens if white plays it like a marshal, tries to take the pawn on d5? Not the focus of this game, really. You know, this game is about Geller playing against Hübner. It's about Geller playing the Roy Lopez. But I'm curious what happens now. So, experts on the Roy Lopez would know this. But if you look at the opening list there, you see there's only one high-level game that's ever been played in this whole position, really. Pankratov versus Vidit, 2022. I mean, no other game comes close. There must be a serious problem here for white. But what's the idea? Someone actually played... There's 6 games with bishop g4, including Hebden and Lengel-Bela and Kolev, Bulgarian. I mean, these are experienced players playing black there. e4 was played by Hebden as well, so he's tried everything. That's weird. And then the normal recapture with knight takes d5, Pankratov Vidit. So what do you guys think? Apparently bishop g4 isn't as good, according to the engine. D takes c, e4, and now d4, e takes f3, g takes f3. Christopher Briscoe versus Mark Hebden, 2009. Which way did Mark go? He went to h5, and it's even the engine doesn't know really which move is better. So that's actually not best according to the Stockfish. So on pawn takes pawn, black's best move is either e4 or... I was wondering about knight a5, actually. Surprisingly untested. This is a possibility as well. I'm fond of playing that move against the Jogo Piano. Alright, anyway, main line is knight takes d5 or e4. Let's take a look at e4. e4, d takes c6. Weird. This is really weird stuff. D takes c6, e takes f3, no games played. Now, totally unexplored theory, basically. Alright, well, that needs to be examined. You know, this is not the place for it. But I think the moral of the story is that if you play the white side of the world, this looks like it's not that good. But if black doesn't know what he's doing, maybe it isn't so bad. So d3, and now look at all those games. d3 is the normal response. White plays a closed type structure. It actually looks like white is black and black is white after the move d5, d3. It's almost like the white side is playing like a Philidor, right? Essentially. But I just think that it's possible that black can easily mishandle these kinds of positions. Once my friend had a game with somebody on the black side. One of my friends had a game years ago playing the black side where he, I think he pushed d4 at some point. And I just don't know, you know, when are you supposed to do that, for example, and when are you not? It's like the Philidor again. So apparently, like, bishop e7, rook e8 are the main moves. d4 is playable, bishop e6 is playable. I like rook e8. I'm really biased toward this move. You know, I mean, it seems like such a good move. Opposite the queen there. Give yourself bishop f8. Keep the bishop on c8 where it actually stays, it stays flexible. That would definitely be my choice. Other moves, for example, like h6, kind of a knee-jerk reaction, can be played. Here's Igor against Kaidanov from 1992. The problem with h6 is, though, it weakens black's king side. So I'm not sure you necessarily have time to do that. So what does the great Geller do? Bishop b7. This turns out to be main line. Maybe he's right. You know, maybe there's nothing to be afraid of on this diagonal. It's not like a normal Roy Lopez, closed Roy Lopez anymore. Maybe bishop b7 is simply the most active move and the most natural move. Although I still think we're gonna have to play rook e8 and support that pawn to d5 in the near future. Now Hübner played rook d1, but this move has a very bad score statistically. You know, bishop g5 also makes tons of sense because it's a way of attacking the d5 square. This is playing for consistent pressure against d5. And Mr. Slow, you're playing the bishop's opening. This is similar to a bishop's opening, obviously. Consistent pressure against d5, maybe forcing black's hand. Knight a5, bishop c2. Belyavsky Bareyev. Bishop g5 worthy of consideration. I think another reason why I would lean toward not playing bishop b7. But on the other hand, what about bishop g5, like say for example against rook e8? Why can't white play bishop g5 here? So the difference would be this. Wow. Bishop e6. You know, or d4. Well, that's funny. Lengyo Bela playing with white against his own opening. All right. So bishop b7, rook d1. And this is kind of, well, I always thought it looked sort of stupid because honestly, this rook is only going to play if you can force black to exchange on e4. I mean, rook d1 makes sense if you're playing for c3 and d4, but does it make sense when you're playing d3? And the answer is not as much. It frees up the f1 square if we're going to maneuver like knight d f1. You know, you might say, well, why not like rook e1? That's clearly a playable move as well. Short Hübner 1990. Black lost, so Hübner loses on either side of this position. Rook d1, rook e8, great move, obviously. Knight d2, bishop f8, classic move. The only thing is, there's no bishop g5 after knight d2. So black doesn't have to worry about bishop g5 here. Now knight f1, and now you are threatening bishop g5. You are threatening bishop g5, so we have to do something. So your options are h6, preventing bishop g5, or what? Knight a5, fighting for control of d5, but at the same time putting your knight on the side of the board. So that's what Geller does. Put the knight on the side of the board, trying to drive that bishop back so white can't take over d5. This is forced. And now, obviously c5, so the knight has a way back. White is playing the freaking Philidor. right? Am I right? Okay. But still, bishop g5 is a threat. The other thing is, I mean, are there going to be situations where I can trade and like play c4 or something, and I'm okay? This is definitely the most aggressive move, bishop g5. And now black can play h6 or queen b6, or find a novelty. Mr. Slow, you remember when Geller played rook e6 in that other game? Rook e6, anyone? I imagine this is a move, but at the same time, wouldn't this be a move as well? However, the difference is knight e3 or knight g3 and knight f5. See, guys, that's why I don't like bishop b7. Because in some cases, that knight is going to end up it's going to come to f5, and we're going to have a problem. So black plays h6, and now everyone else played bishop h4. If you take, you have no darks for bishop. Bishop g5 is a bluff. It's a semi-bluff. You don't want to trade your darks for bishop and get nothing for it, you know? That's not good. I think keeping the tension makes sense. Mamedov, Dragon Barlov, both of these grandmasters played bishop h4. Bishop e3 doesn't make a lot of sense, and bishop d2 is just like, well, that's what he played. That's what Hubner played now. Bishop d2, not very attractive. So it looks like this is more consistent. And if g5 isn't a good move, I mean, I don't know that white can sacrifice a piece here. It's dubious. But this is interesting. No one has pulled the trigger on g5. I mean, 4 games, really. No one had the cojones to play this. I mean, a lot of beginners are going to launch this piece sacrifice, but I'm skeptical that that's enough. I think the bigger danger for black is the long-term weakening of his kingside, f5 square. Knight, knight e3, knight f5. But still, we should take a look at this. Hubner was afraid enough to play bishop d2. And he's the only person to play bishop d2. I mean, you might as well play bishop c1 at that point. What the hell is the difference? Are you going to put the bishop on e1 or something? Okay. Alright, it might be better on d2. I mean, theoretically, your rooks are still connected. There also could be something here. This isn't so stupid. Alright. I'm being too dismissive of this move. There is some value in the bishop on d2. You support b4, possibly undermining black's center. This actually isn't so stupid. I still think that black is better, though. So Geller does what he does best. He keeps the tension. Plays a lot on the queen side. We've seen so many examples, Mr. Slow, that you've submitted where Geller just takes over on the queen side. I mean, you could just go back, I would think. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this move. I guess it's a little bit slow. Instead, he just ignores white and it goes queen c7. Normally, the drawback to this move would be no coverage of knight h4, knight f5. No tactics with discoveries based on the knight going to h4. Takes what I've been given. Queen c7, knight g3, and now rook a d8. Very, very fundamental play by black. And at this point, we're getting a little bit of Chigorin vibe from White's play. H4, it screams of desperation. I don't know. You know, I think that Hubner like lost patience here. There's some ideas, and I'm not joking about Chigorin. I mean, he played similarly against like Steinitz or whatever. But what about, as lame as it is, you know, Rook C1? Because I'm kind of serious about this B4 idea. I don't like H4. I mean, besides the fact that it weakens White's king side, which may or may not be a big deal, pawns never move backwards. Why not play Rook A C1? I mean, I guess he's trying to keep his rook on A1 in case he ever wants to play A4 or something. But I mean, seriously, here, if we go here, B4 might be a real idea. You defend the bishop at C2. You even have the ability to retreat that bishop back to B1, if necessary. Although that's not very exciting, I admit. So H4 I really don't like. It feels coffee house, and it just doesn't seem to really do anything. And it screams of, I'm totally desperate and I don't know what to do. I'm like lashing out. And now C4. Maybe that's the problem. I mean, maybe the truth is that Rook C1 is too late because Black's doing this anyway. I guess that's the point. Perhaps Geller already, you know, has C4 no matter what. If that's the case, I mean, I guess White's going to have to look back and improve earlier. But H4 feels ridiculous. C4, and now White is clearly worse. Clearly worse. And Hubner is definitely in trouble. The center, queenside, is sort of caving in. And this move doesn't feel like a great idea either. You know? I mean, too many pawn moves here. This. I mean, I guess he's hoping that he can get him to take somehow. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad for White. But I expect Black to take more toward the center, which is what he does. C takes D, bishop takes D3. Now, if you trade everything, maybe White is okay. For example, takes. What are we achieving there? You know, this looks like it's perfectly okay for White, but we're not going to do that. Why release all the tension? So he takes on D3 and then he stops. Because there's a huge threat, right? If White somehow takes, maybe we can push E4. Like, stuff that pawn on him with E4. Another, I mean, this is like, we have clear central superiority. Mr. Moriarty. We have clear central Moriarty. Guys, analysis stream, thank you for your support. We had $33 donated, as well as 525 bits. Let's keep the hype train going. Okay, now bishop takes e3, and now a very interesting move, and a very subtle move by Black. I can't express how much I hate h4, but we're going to see Black take advantage of it right away. My favorite move of this game so far, Queen c8. Are you glad you played h4 now? What could possibly go wrong? Okay, this game was played in, when, 1970? Rainer Knock? Was just getting warmed up. Knock. This is Hubner with white. He had to be younger than Knock, right? Knock's still going. I think that, I don't know. I mean, what was Hubner's rating at this point, I wonder? In 1990, 1970. C4 wasn't so bad. Of course it wasn't bad. I mean, dude, C4, it's a typical, I called it a Philidor. What opening is the Philidor closest relative to? You're talking about, are you suggesting for white? The closest relative to the Philidor is the old Indian. And this is a very typical, no, I was meaning in the current position why white, Oh. Here, 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 here. See what? The current position by white. Oh, hitting the undefended knight. Nah. Okay, it deserves consideration. Just casually. That's a very tactical suggestion there, Butterfly Hunter. Sorry, man. I'll call you Dragonfly. Alligator Hunter. Wow. Schieberspieler, D takes C4. Knight takes C4. Knight takes C4, it's really insane. You gotta love it. I mean, it's a neat idea, right? Takes. Or what's your intention? I mean, there's lots of stuff. But I thought like he'll just take with the D pawn. Maybe he didn't intend anything fancy. I think he's just gonna like take, and black's better. I mean, we still got our thing. You know, I mean, this is the most important thing, right? It's over. Isn't it? I mean, bishop on a5 is ridiculous. So forget about that. It's a nice find by Dragonfly Hunter, but I think that ultimately it's not something that anybody missed. Your ideas are interesting. The idea of taking here is unclear. I know, right? It's not your pieces. I would be surprised if this works somehow. Oh, we have another shot, don't we? This is really, really weird. But we could take with the B pawn. Temporarily sack a piece and then take here? No. I don't think this is going to work. It's a bit much. But anyway, it's a nice suggestion, but I don't think it works. I think we can eliminate c4. White is desperate. Plays bishop c2. Bishop c2. You're desperate, you're in trouble, and you play bishop c2. Naked and alone. Naked and afraid. Okay. What's the deal with bishop c2? Just when our position got really bad, we played bishop c2 to try to save it. Well, the point is, I guess, c4 is... He's sneaking, he's trying to sneak in. Yes! He's going to sneak c4 on Geller with bishop c2. Forcing him to sack a piece. Yeah, it's an extremely slow move. The kind of question is, like, do you have anything better? Because you know you're going to get, like, slammed if you do this. You're just begging black to have some kind of Najdorf, like, you know, e4. I don't even want to think about it. Probably e4 is very strong there. Let's see. Not winning. Mule Skinner. Mule Skinner with a hate mail submission. Thank you. All right. Let's do this. If it's not too late. What is that? An FEN? You've even got FEN. You got everything in there. Oh, that asterisk is going to kill me. It's not going to like accept the game if there's an asterisk, an obelisk. Asterisk and obelisk. What's with the asterisk? Can I put that in there? Copy. Learn, study. My studies, blah, blah, blah. Add game. Alright, let's see if this works. There we go. It's in there. So, by the way, yeah, sneaking in, I'm just, you know, H4 was the beginning of the end, in my opinion. He's threatening C4, very subtle. Now, D takes C4. Oh, I didn't think that was a problem. But now, maybe it is. So what do you think Black's got now? Do you think this has to do with something like knight to D5? The first thought is, oh, okay, if knight takes E4, maybe we have some new plan, like going here. But actually, that thing is still valid. You know, your idea of this, in some cases, could even be a double attack. This is still not clear to me. But he doesn't play knight to D5. He doesn't seem to have anything fancy. What's the main thing, though, about this position? Black has a very strong pawn on E5. It's totally like... That's like an extra piece in the center of the board if we don't trade everything. I'm a little surprised that Black actually trades now. And I'm sure Hubner wasn't expecting Black to trade. Hubner would love Black to trade all the pieces off here. You know, then he's like maybe going to hold on. I mean, I guess you could. You could play F5. This is very tempting, actually. Trade everything, play F5. We have the initiative, clearly. We're still better. Yeah, I mean, I could see Hubner, like, probably anticipating maybe that. But what happens next is kind of Larsonian. The move you never expect to happen. It makes you jump out of the chair. Bishop takes E4. But it doesn't matter. Okay. Bishop takes E4. No special idea. Knight takes E4. Queen takes E4. And now not F5. Really surprising move now. Really surprising move. Black is better, but not like winning yet. Most players would never have the patience to play this move. This is an unbelievable move. Fianchettoing his knight with knight b7. No way I'm finding this. So, getting knight back to a safe position. Okay, you have this, you have this. You're not worried about knight takes e5, so f6. But I mean, is this enough for Black to win? Well, everything is looking pretty solid. And what about like bishop e3? There is an issue with that move in particular. The Black would have to deal with rook takes d8. What do you think the Black intended on bishop e3? It's not the only move, but a logical one. You could play knight c5. Simply knight c5. I mean, Black's clearly better here. What do you guys think? White's going to have to hack the knight, probably. And Black's just better. But, I mean, is it enough? Computer doesn't think it's much at all. So what about bishop e3? It's apparently f5 or knight d6. This is very subtle, I think. Yeah. Knight d6, knight f5. Knight d6 avoids exchanges. It avoids exchanges, which is really nice. And this looks kind of dangerous. So I think white like kind of has to go here, which is less than ideal. Black has a clear advantage. Largely made possible, I just want to point out, by the awful move h4 played by Hubner. H4 is a move that you play if the position is closed in the center, maybe. That was the problem. When Hubner played h4, there's tension in the middle of the board. You know? There was this tension in the middle of the board, and he played h4. You don't do that. You know, like the center's closed. It's the black line. He's playing, what is it called? The lion's jaw? Was Hubner taking lessons with I don't know, you know, like Simon Williams before Simon Williams was born or something? No. Too much Chigorin games. So bishop takes, queen takes, knight b7, and now knight e1. Knight e1. Clearly concerned about the d3 square. But there's also this. I mean, he's also going to get hit by an avalanche of pawns. I mean, e4, knight d6, queen e2, knight f5. This position is like the dream of every Caro-Kann player in the world. Knight f5 hitting the h-pawn. And now, like, of course, g3 would look horrible. So he plays h5. And now e4. Now that's a tasty burger. That's embarrassing. Knight c2. Blockadovich. Rook d3. Now I have a question. What happens if the knight goes back to e1? We're just gonna go to a different forward square, like d5 or like d6 or something. Hubner doesn't backtrack with knight e1. He plays queen g4. Allowing that rook to stay there on d3. So he's being kind of combative. Bishop c5, and now knight b4. Bro. I have a bad feeling about that. This can't be 100% okay. Because there's definitely tactics now. Rook d2, e3. Just that right away. I mean, why can't black play rook takes d2 followed by e3? Rook d2, e3. What am I missing here? This has to be strong. He has to take and play rook f2, I think. Takes, check, rook f2. That looks horrible. And white is probably lost. But I don't see what else he could possibly do. But even worse, he goes here. Oh no. I knew there was a reason I shouldn't put the queen on g4 there. Queen f4. Bishop d6. Are you guys sure Astrobait isn't playing black here? This is the first round. This is our first game submission. Astrobait versus Hubner. I mean, Hubner, Astrobait. Hubner was obviously not Hubner yet at the point where he played this game. I suspect that Hubner is younger than Rainier Kanak. Rainier Kanak, I know for a fact, was like around 2,500 in 1970. So figuring that Hubner is younger, I would approximate that Hubner wasn't as high rated. But dude, this is an interzonal tournament. I don't know what the rules were for participating in interzonals. But I thought you had to be really strong. I don't even know how they were chosen. Yeah, I'm thinking it had to be like Hübner was 2400 or something, you know. I think Kanak and got the title around the same time. But the reason I mentioned Kanak is because he's still going, and you know, I know for a fact he's older than Hübner. I don't know by how many years. Bishop d6. Okay, let's say Hübner was an IM or something when this game was played. He was totally outclassed. F takes e3, bishop takes f4, bishop takes f4, and now e3. And white should resign. But he keeps playing on. Why do I keep getting these weird challenges from people? What's that about? Hello? When was Geller's peak? That's a good question. I think you're probably like looking at it. I don't know. Maybe even earlier. No, this is 70. I mean, it seems like around here, you know. I remember he beat Fischer several times. Late 60s. I think in the late 60s. He's still close to his peak. Exactly. E3, rook d3, e2, rook e1. White should give up, but nobody ever won by resigning. Check, king h2, queen f2. And he manages to continue, you know, knight c2. And then a really beautiful move next. Black is winning. I mean, come on. He's up a queen for rook and bishop. But with a crushing pan on the 7th. But the following move, I mean, it looks like, wow, it's not that easy to break through here. Boom! Knight h4. Wow. How did you ever think of that move? Well, always look at the most forcing move. How can I threaten mate in 1? Knight h4. That's a beautiful move. That is a beautiful move. Styling. With the mate in 1 threat. Another question, though, in all seriousness, is rook g1 a better defense? In retrospect, what do? Take on g2. We take on g2. Rook takes g2, queen. Probably. Grind him down. e1 queen. e1 queen? Oh, you wanted just e1 queen? Okay. Well, that's good too. Takes. Oh. That's not cool, Schieberspieler. That's stronger than my suggestion. Alright, never mind. Yeah, you have to take. And then here. You could also, you could also take on h4. But it's lost now. But Hübner did not want to give up. He manages to drag this out, man. What, another 15 moves? Repeating moves, a5. Damn. It's still winning, but Hübner will not give up, making him grind this down. What will make him resign? You know, loss of a devastating amount of material. Now a very good move, a4. That's got to be disheartening. I mean, I think it's still not a blockade, even if we traded pawns, because black has the 3-on-1, majority on the king side. But this is killing. Now a3 is a secondary target. So even Hübner gives up. Queen e4, and then rook f3 check. What made him resign now? But he's just going to take on c3. There's no way. You know, king g1, rook takes c3. But whatever. Okay. Great game. totally outclassed. Now we get to see Sheep. Thank you, Mr. Slow, for submitting that. You guys were very right about promote. Always promote when you can, as soon as possible. Promote early and often. Thanks, guys. Thanks to Schieberspieler for submitting the following game. This is a Schieberspieler. This is a Schiebler cookies. I'm a Schiebler elf with my hat. And if you live in Europe, you don't get it, but it's a cookie. Anyway, cookie makers. The old game. I'm questioning this. Oh wow. So I thought this was even older. So this was played in 2018? Interesting. So it's not that long ago. This is like a year before COVID or whatever. That's funny. 2018. I don't remember you mentioning this. Did you? You were playing on my stream back then. Schieberspieler. Yeah, I don't know. I guess you never mentioned it. It wasn't a big deal. But we didn't know that Schieberspieler. Oh, you didn't play my stream till 2020? Oh wow. All right. Somehow I thought like you had discovered my stream before the pandemic. So you arrived during the pandemic. That explains it. So little did we know that Schieberspieler was secretly a closet London player. Explains a lot of things. But he's gotten, more serious now. So let's take a look. Oh, the London, my favorite opening. But again, it's a good opening for beginner, but you were already 2200 when this game was played. Kishika's a weird guy. He came in like 2000. I want to say like 2008. Want to say 2008, 2009, 2008. I remember playing him like twice in first Saturdays. The first time I beat him easily, he was like unrated or really low. Maybe 2200. But he got better quickly. He's a weird guy. I don't know. He like came with, before he was even like, I don't think he even had a FIDE rating when he arrived here. Very, very strange. How does California guy play in a second Hungarian division? California guy lives in Hungary. He's been here. He moved here. He moved here from San Francisco. I guess his parents kicked him out because he was like annoying or something. So they sent him to Hungary with a trust fund or something, and he was finding himself. Yeah, no, he's originally from San Francisco. I got some backstory on him. But he came here, he was kind of lost. He wanted to do chess. He got a lot better. He improved a lot. But I always found him a little odd. I don't know what he's doing now. You kicked him out of the big lake. Kicked him out of the big lake? I'm missing something. So Schieberspieler is white. We've got d4, knight f6, knight f3, e6, bishop f4. Very interesting. Just want to go down. I want to go down on the record as saying I feel like the London is more logical when black plays d4, d5. That's just my opinion. Black has more flexibility when not committing d5. So I feel like when you play d4 and black plays d5, okay, bishop f4, you have this diagonal. But when you just do it, when people just do it against everything, especially Indian defenses, it seems like, less appropriate somehow. But okay, it's a minor point. Anyway, I'll forgive Schieberspieler for submitting a London system. Kicked him over the lake. Yeah. Yeah, no, he's a weird guy. He came here. He had very little experience. Kishlik. And, but that's the Hungarian way of pronouncing it. He pronounces it Kislik. So we've mispronounced his name, the poor guy, ever since he came here. But I haven't seen him in like 10 years. He totally, like, the last I heard, he was doing chess lessons, writing some chess books. I haven't actually seen him in person in 10 years. It's kind of scary. He has been to my house, but as I said, I couldn't get him to leave. Knight f3, so that was the last time, you know. If you go to my house, I can't get rid of you. You become, like, problematic. I'm not going to invite you back, like, a second time. Knight f3, e6, bishop f4, and now c5. This is obviously, like, really main line. Chess romance novels. That's what I think he was mostly writing. He's up there with Jesse Cry. Bishop f4, c5. It's a real niche market. Bishop f4, c5, and now c3. Now, just want to note that Cheaperspieler was younger. This was 2018. He was 2200 playing a higher rated player. But I mean, e3 is a better move. When you play e3, you can allow stuff like queen b6 and play it like a gambit, where they're gonna like go queen b6, grab the pawn. You play knight d2. You know, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but it's sharper to play e3. c3 is like safe, cowardly. Actually, a good choice for a player who's 150 points lower rated, or if you want to frustrate someone, see Kamsky Ivanchuk. That's a model game, actually. If you guys see the top game on the list, I have looked at that game before, and you could do worse and analyze that. You know, typical example of why this type of line is a little bit passive for white. Okay, I'm sure Kamsky didn't play it perfectly, but now Kishlik decides to play queen b6, which, you know, I don't think is that great. You're encouraging queen b3, and I don't know why a higher rated player would necessarily go for that, but whatever. Queen b6, queen b3. Here's another Kamsky game, shockingly, right? So the problem for black is that, okay, the queen obstructs the b pawn. I would probably have to go with, you know, either d5 or knight c6 here. There's no special benefit in c takes d. I hate when people do this. Sorry, that, yeah. c5, c3, queen b6, queen b3, knight c6. I just want to say I hate when people do this and then white recaptures with the pawn. So apparently you're supposed to trade queens and then take with a knight, which is really insipid. Banus played this with white. Oh my god. Who knows though? That's probably like a chess.com game from something stupid. Anyway, knight c6 looks okay. E3, and now d5 transposes to, I guess, the standard type of line. If d5, knight bd2, I would want to play like bishop d7. Capablanca. I keep thinking back to some Capablanca game, but I think that was actually a Tory attack or something, where Capablanca had a game. Maybe not. Maybe it was a Lenin. There is stuff with knight h5, but I think this move I probably played before. I mean, if we look at this, Slaggy with black, I don't know if we'll find any games. There are two. So I did not play bishop d7, surprisingly. I played c takes d4 and bishop e7. But I don't know. I don't know. There's a problem with bishop d7? Not really. That's a move, and h5 seems like a move. Bishop e7 is okay. I don't really like c takes d4. I think this is a mistake. I don't know why I played this. It was probably a simul, and I just made a move. But generally speaking, this exchange doesn't help black. He'll just take with the e-pawn. I did this. It's playable, but what does black benefit by exchanging those pawns? You know? Anyways, so Kishlik here plays queen takes b3. This is a very strange move, though. Generally speaking, exchanging the queens always mostly favors the side that that's not doing the exchanging. Releasing the tension favors the opponent, and so most people know that. Schieberspieler here said he was happy to see his queen on b3. Schieberspieler loves trading queens, but this particular exchange of queens is probably favorable. You gain the open A file, or half open A file. Now, Kishlik plays knight h5. A logical move, going after the dark square bishop. But we need to consider all the possibilities here. I mean, even bishop c7. If I can play bishop c7 and the knight just hangs out on h5, then what exactly is black doing? If you play bishop c7, what happens if black tries to trap said bishop with d6? For example, bishop c7, d6, trying to play for like king here. Yeah, I mean it's hard to figure this out because you know your bishop is unnatural there. You could put it on b6 possibly, but I think here you could also take, and then your bishop won't get trapped. So it probably is fine. It's not really going to get trapped. I mean, this is the only move that could try to trap it. Maybe he could try pawn takes pawn. Maybe this could be a little bit scary. Pawn takes pawn, d6. Even here, I'm skeptical. Like even if you sack the pawn with d5, I'm skeptical. Like, is this so great for black with a horrible structure? And your bishop that can get rescued by like bishop b6. I'm not even sure about this, honestly. So yeah, you were concerned about no big deal there. But you can also consider bishop g3. So you took here. I'm a little surprised. I wouldn't want to do that necessarily. Take on c5. But I mean, if you're going to allow knight f4, okay, it makes sense. I think I would lean toward bishop g3. Well, let's see what you've got here. Maybe an idea. You're going to take on c5, and then you're going to use your pawns. Bishop g3 is lame. Well, I mean, the whole opening is lame, dude. You know that. All right, takes, and then takes. And now this is your idea. A b4, the dynamism of the queenside pawns. No, you created imbalance, which is cool. But ultimately, your pawn islands are pretty compact. So the thing is, he has a bishop on c8. It's hard to get it in the game. So his bishop pair isn't really an advantage unless this gets to b7 and starts to really look good. b4, bishop e7, and now knight on bd2. And now black played d5, but I don't know. Should he play d5? Is there an alternative? I think that it's not so easy. The natural thing you want to do is play like b6, bishop b7, but you can kind of figure out why you didn't want to do this. b5. If you go out here, you're getting attacked by this. This starts to look really awkward for black. So fianchettoing with the knight on c6 isn't so great. But at the same time, like, maybe he doesn't have to play d5. I don't know. Nevertheless, he's going to get what he asked for with the a file. You know, a6 is always bad. Ultimately, there's no real easy way. d5, fine, whatever. Knight b3. Blockading here like Nimzovich. It's possible that Schieberspieler has indirectly inherited some Nimzovichian principles, but he didn't get it from me. Now Kishlik castles. You know, objectively in an endgame scenario, Eric might want his king on like e7. Oh, by the way, another idea for black would be like king d8, king c7. Beforehand, during Swiss Blitz, you asked me about the games I played. I don't know what you're talking about, but right now we're doing analysis of games. So d5, knight b3, castles, bishop e2, and now h6, which is a really lame move. But it looks like he wants to play g5, which actually might be okay. Schieberspieler, you know, you could consider doing like h4 probably. Not your style. But I don't think this would be a bad move, to be frank. You're putting your pawns consistently on dark squares. I criticize Hübner. I think it's much better than Hübner's h4. Castles, now g5. That's actually a little bit of an achievement for black, I feel like. F takes g5, h takes g5. He now has this kind of nice pawn island that has a lot of flexibility. It gives him a little bit of chances for counterplay. I don't know if it might be too late. b5, knight b8. Better than d8. And now rook a2. So Schieberspieler just goes into very one-dimensional but effective mode. Ultimately, the pawn is gonna have to move. He plays a6 voluntarily, and then rook f a1. Schieberspieler offers a draw. If I'm black here, and my opponent's 2200 in the Hungarian Team Championship, I'm gonna seriously consider it. I'm not gonna dismiss this draw for. I played in the same division, you know. Just a different region. So I'm used to playing players around this level, same as Schieberspieler. I would be around the same rating as his opponent. So I'm just thinking, like, if I was black, would I have taken your draw offer here? You know, saying I don't know you. I think he got a little optimistic that maybe you played kind of passively and he had some chances. But to be fair, I think that black is clearly worse. The only thing is, like, if he knew you're as good as you are, he would have taken it. He probably knew he was worse, but he was a little optimistic. And I think that, you know, he tried to play on based on your rating. Probably. But it's a mistake. You know, I think he should probably take the draw here. King g7. And now even I didn't expect the next move. And I'm not sure it's right. You know, Schieberspieler decides to play c4 here. It's not a bad move for sure. Right, no, I'm not saying he's lost, but I would still probably very seriously have considered taking your draw. I'm not under the illusion that, like, black is better or something. Black is worse. Maybe not lost, but an awkward position to play. You know, it's very hard to do anything. What's he supposed to do? He's, like, paralyzed. King g7 is a good move. Now you played c4, but I mean, I'm surprised by c4. So you just kind of figured that like ordinary moves aren't good enough. I mean, what you don't want to do is let his like structure, you know, get stronger and stronger with something like this. So if you know, the question is, what do you do if you don't do c4? Well, another move you might consider and then reject is like maybe this. H3 would be like kind of typical passive move here for white. I would be not sure what to do. I mean, you have a lot of options. You reminded me of Nimzovich, though. There was this game that I looked at the other day. It was very counterintuitive. Nimzovich was white, and his opponent had like an isolated queen pawn at d5. And he like traded it off with c4. I was really surprised. You think of Nimzovich as like playing against the IQP, playing blockade. Sort of the same thing that you did here. But it worse in a way, because it was an isolated pawn. You know, like would you necessarily have done this if this was an isolated pawn? Probably not. But this move radically changes the structure. And I do think that you have to consider the possibility that you could be weakening yourself on the dark squares somehow. Dark squares are very important here because he has a dark square bishop and you don't. You know, so when you play this move, the first thing is like, okay, should I do this because I'm weakening my dark squares? The pawns were very solid here. You have very solid dark square pawns. It's a London. What kind of London player plays c4 in this position? This is the clearest evidence this whole game I've seen that Schieberspieler should not get a license to play London. London players don't play c4 in this position. This is like, I don't know, you know. There's no way like the typical robotic London player is going to play c4 here. The London player just moves his pieces back and forth and plays for a draw. But Schieberspieler plays c4. Well, black should take, obviously. He has to take. Like you said, second weakness. Okay, maybe he has one other option. Seriously, rook d8. Let's assume that black doesn't want to have, like, an isolated pawn on d5. What other options does he have? We shouldn't rule out allowing an isolated pawn. But let's say rook d8, right? Yeah, I don't know. This is kind of scary, I agree. It is kind of scary. But it's a very imbalanced position. I don't know what's going on here. It feels like black is paralyzed. It's still not easy for you to make progress, though. You think maybe you have something crazy like b6, knight a5. You're going to have to maneuver. You're really going to have to maneuver. You know, the more obvious suggestion is take, like bishop c4. I mean, you're clearly fine. You're clearly better. Black's pieces are all in the back rank. But he takes, okay. Bishop takes c4. It's similar to the position that you got. Now rook d8, it's like a transposition. This is basically a transposition to what happened. h3. Now I really think if I'm black, I'm having second thoughts about declining that draw. Because objectively, like, how exactly is he, like, winning this? You know? Knight d7, ba6, ba6. You just won a pawn. Oof. But he had no other idea. Yeah. So let's go back again. c4. But I mean, rook d8 wouldn't have really changed that much, you know, ultimately. We would have got the same position. It just doesn't even matter, you know. It's the same exact position. We could literally transpose. Yeah. Let's find a better move for Kishlik here. Can I make a suggestion? Anybody? I have a suggestion. I don't know if it's any good, though. I'm having doubts. Yeah, I was having doubts. You gotta have better than 97. F5, maybe? I'm thinking about this. Then you're gonna pile up on the E file in some lines. I don't know, man. Black is in trouble here. Black needs to. He decides to sack a pawn. He goes from offering a draw to sacrificing a pawn with no winning chances in like 2 moves. He sack a pawn with A5. Yeah, I mean A5. Interesting suggestion. I would probably take with a rook and then take with a knight. I don't want to leave the back rank weak. If you play A5, I take once with a rook and then I take with a knight. But I agree. That's a reasonable suggestion. It's a reasonable suggestion. He's losing a pawn anyway. Black has to try to find some counterplay on the dark squares. So after H3, 97, takes. He decides, okay, rook B8. Maybe this is still enough. So he must expect you to play knight FD2 or something here. And he figures he's active enough to hold. He must have missed this. Even so, I think Black should probably have chances to hang on here. Chances, because your pawn is so hard to hang on to. Well, this is an old game, King's Indian Defense. And Schieber-Spiller is very capable. I don't think that he's, that much weaker than this player, objectively. But this is, okay, it's later. This is later now. This is before Schieber-Spiller was an FM. But anyways, rook takes b2. What about other options? I guess this family fork is unavoidable. Maybe he has to. That's the moral of the story. The family fork is too strong. I guess he could have played knight c5. Then you have rook a7. And now he can try something like, maybe this is very risky, but bishop f6. It looks like that doesn't work. Okay, never mind. Rook a7, knight c6 is a threat. So what does Black do? Hard to come up with a move. Alright, so he takes the pawn, and now you have what, a tactic? Knight c6. Here. Oh. So everybody's expecting rook e8. When you can win a pawn at minimum with takes, but rook a7 looks even stronger. Is this... Probably winning. So, he had a trick. Knight b8. Knight takes d8, knight takes a6, knight takes e6 check, f takes e, and you won a pawn. And if the pawns weren't split, it would be a dead draw. If the pawn was on f7 instead of on e6, it would be an easy draw. But I think the fact that those pawns are split makes it pretty different. I mean, it's possible this is still a draw, but much harder to play. This is funny. So rook b1 check, king h2, and then Black offers a draw. Squeeze me. It's a little late for that. I would never have the audacity to offer a draw here. I mean, not against like, well, maybe like against like an 1800 or something, but not against anybody who's like 2200. At this point, I'm just going to accept that I have to fight for a draw. I would offer maybe a draw against an 1800, but I'm definitely not against a serious player who's like master strength. That's a weird thing to do, kind of diss. I don't know what the tournament situation was, like the team match situation, but there might be some exceptional score situation where the other team needs a draw, or I don't know what, but stronger players shouldn't be offering a draw here. It's not a very good situation. This looks really grim. Still, if he can avoid losing material, another pawn, how can he draw this? How can you win this? You can reposition your knight. I mean, there's like an eternity. I mean, there's a million options for like placing your knight on different squares. I mean, you just tortured the guy here. G3, King G2. You did G3 very early. He offered a draw with King F6. You played Rook A2, preventing Rook B2, preparing G3, King G2. So he can't do anything except for E5, which puts another pawn on the wrong color. He goes here, threatening to trade pawns with G4, and that is a draw. I would still not think it's that easy, but it probably is a draw. So that's what happened. Here's a good question. I mean, should you seriously consider playing G4? I think you have to seriously consider this move. I'm not sure if it's best. Or some other kind of trick to stop G4. So you think it's a draw? But I mean, you have H4 breaks. I'm afraid that it might be a draw, though. Once we get down to 2 against 1. Obviously, King G3 is bad. Imagine if you played King G3 here. The dude was like Bishop D6 check. Oh. God damn it, Jerry. My point is, like, after this, I gotta believe this is a draw. That doesn't mean that white can't torture black for like 100 moves. It'd be better though. It's true, like the pawns aren't aligned. If these pawns were over one more, if they were aligned with the pawn on, if black were aligned with the pawns, it would be better for black. You do have a kind of like protected passed pawn here. But I still don't think that matters that much. It still should be a draw. If they were two connected passed pawns also would be better for white, obviously. If that were a D pawn, we'd have two connected passed pawns. Great winning chances. But yeah, I mean, the question is really here. By the way, did you have a different move in this position rather than playing? Maybe Rook A2 was a mistake. I mean, I realize you might not have much time to play like optimal moves here. I wanted to play G3, but he's on F2 too fast. 2-2. Bishop Desmond 2-2. So G3, Rook B2, King G2, and then Bishop C5. Which could lead to a slight problem. And that's why you played rook a2. And it is a little difficult to suggest something better. You never know, though. There might be something else. I don't see it, though. You know, I just don't see it. I mean, g4 is definitely an option. I'm not sure about your knight, though. It's a draw, according to the engine. Alright, so you went here. He goes here. Takes, takes. I really have no idea how good Kishlik is in, like, say, endgames or something. I imagine he's reasonable. King h3, rook b4, rook e2, bishop d6, knight d2, heading for e4. Here, check, king f7, f3. Yeah, I mean, this is a draw. Pretty sure. Well, let's see, though. You know, if you're gonna, what are you gonna do? You're gonna play like g4, g5, king g4. Practical chances. You doesn't do that. So interesting move. Schieberspieler doesn't push any pawns. He's kind of like probing with king g4. Rook a2, rook b4. Are you kidding me? He offered another draw? Dude, that's like a 5-year-old. He offered another draw. That's 2 draws in a row. If you offer 3 draws in a row, I'm going to punch you. Alright. Rook b7, rook a4. Now king f4. Schieberspieler, interestingly, you know, not touching his pawns. Keeping the maximum distance for 50 move rule. And now g4. So now we have what looks like the makings of some threats. Maybe g5, g6 check. No, there's no literal draw offering restriction. But I mean, if you do it continuously, you can obviously be penalized. It's just such bad etiquette, you know. You're supposed to be allowed to offer a draw a few moves, you know, like when the position changes significantly or something like that. Rook d3, g5. I mean, obviously the guy offered 2 draws and the position really hadn't changed that much. It's weird. It made me freak out with some people. Now black panics. I don't think that black wants to put his pawn on a dark square here. That pawn is so important for black, you know. It's his light square. Guardian. But I mean, are you maybe threatening g6 check? I don't want to play e5. So the question is, g6 check a serious threat? The knight's dominated, you know. The knight's dominated, so it's not going anywhere. So let's say black plays rook a3. Just staying around. You don't have to go g6 check, but you could. But I mean, is we making any progress? I won a game like this. It reminds me now I won a game like this at the World Senior. Very good practical chances. But e5 check I don't really like. So his idea was to go here. I think now he's in trouble. So I think this position, you know, is interesting. He can't stop you. Let's say rook a3, g6 check, king e8. I'm even worried about this, you know. Rook takes f3, king takes e6. This is winning. This wins. How do you actually stop the pawn? Yeah, I don't know. But I guess you've got to be skeptical of Kishlik's play earlier, don't you? I mean, why does he let you get your rook pinning his king here? So objectively, maybe he has other options. Rook b7. I think this is a mistake to let you on the 7th. I think now it's already getting pretty difficult. This is a huge moment. I mean, your advantage increased significantly on rook b7, though it might still somehow be holding. But I don't know about rook a3. Makes sense to tie you down to this. Okay. Here. But a huge mistake to let you on the 7th. I'm not saying it was easy to defend anyway. Bishop takes g5 check. If only it weren't illegal. Okay, so king f8. We have to play king f8. So king f8, you just do g6 anyway. Threatening g7 check, winning. But I still am unsure. Why am I unsure? Why be unsure? Looks like it's winning. Yeah, it is. It's already winning at this point. But I mean, where does it go to lost? Right here. Step by step. After g4, it looks like he's lost. Why is rook a2 say better? I mean, you still have g4. He has rook g2, g5. Getting behind the pawn is a better defensive try. So you wouldn't play g5 in that case. You don't have to, you know? Yeah, it's really, really not easy for black to defend. But he's already lost. He's already lost when he plays e5 check, it looks like. I mean, I think this is the point. King g4, here, here. King d7, and then your g6 pawn is too strong. He's lucky if he can sack the bishop for that pawn. It's over. Now he can sack a rook for it. Oh no, he can't. Oh shit. He can't sack anything for it. This is so embarrassing. Even this is guarded. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, he lost it step by step. It's interesting. Not an easy endgame. Like if his pawn had been, like I said, in front of your pawns, it's a much easier draw. The fact you had, effectively, it's true, a protected pass pawn. And when you play g4, this is a protected pass pawn. But I still think Black had chances. You know, if we look here, when he went rook b4, let's go back to rook b4, rook c2. By the way, you should play rook a7 right away. Clearly, you hesitated. You were probably in time pressure as well. But once he allows that, he's in big trouble. So let's say rook a7, right? Turn the engine on. What's the evaluation? +1. So that's not a win. So how can you try to make progress here? Same way, like king f4. We're going to try to move the g pawn. You got rook h2, king f4. King f4, king g4? You want to go king g4? Okay. You can go king g4. But let's just say rook a7. What do we do? Can you go king h5, g4, g5? Can you try to make progress with your king out on h5? No. You can go with the rook to the fifth. This looks quite tempting. King g6, say. But I mean, the point is, his bishop defends the dark squares. You know, his pawn defends the light. His king defends mostly light squares. My instinct is that it should be a draw. But I think, you know, the rook on the 7th is where it's basically decisive. But anyway, I mean, still you would have tortured him, and he might have lost anyway, you know, and I might maybe lose too. It's not easy. Anyway, congratulations. You beat the evil Eric Kishlik. We got Richard Brenton, and then a couple more games to follow. Thanks, Cheaper Spieler, for submitting that game. This is just a quick opening analysis that Arsenal fan suggested before. Kind of a random opening. I played this game from my Sunday Simul against Richard Brenton, and we had actually just a standard Fianchetto Grunfeld. Well, Neo Grunfeld, right? I haven't played d4. So anyway, after castles, yeah, I played queen b3, black played knight b6, and now here we had this interesting position, which is not that common, but it's a kind of typical English. I mean, I guess this is English. It's Neo Grunfeld, whatever you want to call it. But here I paused for a little while, and for a few seconds really, and I don't really have a lot of options. You know, maybe a4, but even that, like bishop e6 is kind of a threat. So I drive the knight away from the center with queen b3. I'm not intending to keep my queen on b3 necessarily. I consider things like rook d1 to push for d4, but he has bishop g4 there, threatening bishop takes f3 and knight d4. So Arsenal fan, after my simul, had a funny suggestion. He claimed that, I guess on his computer or whatever, the computer actually preferred d4 for white. And I looked it up, and you know, surprisingly there were 2 games here where white won them both. One of them, my friend Salvador Alonso from Argentina, who's a GM, losing with black against the 2200. And so it's kind of funny, where this position arose, both players who were 2500, like basically GMs, lost against weaker players, ironically. So Arsenal's suggestion of sacking this pawn is kind of cool. It's not completely unheard of in the Neo Grunfeld. The obvious continuation is what one player played, knight takes d4. Salvador played a5. which is a typical idea. Like Tibor Fubarashi has played against me in these kind of Neo Grunfelds. There's also an option. A4, A5, A4, A3, Rook A5, a lot of ideas like that. But I mean, obviously, like the critical idea would be to take the pawn. And so there's a game here: knight takes d4, knight takes d4. Now, if bishop takes d4, black is just lost because of rook d1, threatening to win a piece. So black has to take with the queen, and then white has compensation. And this is what happened in this game from 2020, knight b5. Attacking a7, attacking the queen. Now, this is where it gets really kind of weird, which it's really weird. Black has two moves, at least two moves. Queen c5 and queen c4. And so I thought, okay, what happens if queen c5? Well, turn on the engine. And if you play queen c5, the computer says that black is a tiny bit better. White plays bishop e3. Black plays queen c4. And it's close to equal. Maybe white has compensation for the sacrificed pawn. But weirder is when you go here. Watch this. Queen c4. Boom! There's suddenly like 27 games. It's so strange, you know? Now there's 27 games. So we transpose to some other line, oddly. And white has compensation for a sacrificed pawn. I just thought it was kind of funny how the transposition came out of nowhere there. But I have seen similar lines. But another possibility, which wasn't analyzed in other games, is, and neither of these guys found it, but black can play bishop e6. This looks like a pretty good move. I honestly hate, well, I'm not going to do it here, but I don't want to end up like, you know, Donald Barron or something with my queen on c5. The famous game where Fischer sacked his queen for like pieces against Donald Barron. I've never been comfortable putting my queen on c to a3 here. That is a possibility, but I would almost certainly play queen c2. And then there's actually a couple of games where clearly black should go for this pawn. Knight takes c4, knight takes d4, queen takes c4. And now, you know, it looks like, oh, this is great for white. Now I win a pawn back, I get my pawn back, I mess up black's structure, but check it out. Rook b8. And now black is really active with this Ilya Smirin-like piece activity. So, at the end of the day, it looks like it's about equal. So all of this stuff is very interesting, and, you know, it might work in a practical game. But the final analysis, like black very active here. Bishop f3, maybe bishop f3 is even better than bishop g2. But black coming with this, and I would rather be black. Black is so active. Black has the worst structure, who cares? You know, black's pieces are just raking the queen side. So, the moral of the story was Arsenal's fans' idea with d4. It's very creative, and it's 2-0, but looks like that bishop e6 might be the most dynamic way to play. My move is actually the best move, the routine move, d3. I just wanted to take a look at that because Arsenal had mentioned it, and you know, so the conclusion is that d4 is interesting, but d3 is you know, more solid. By the way, what happens if like bishop g4? Okay, we guard the square with bishop e3. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, we guard d4 with the bishop e3. Very good. All right, guys, onward and upward. This is I don't know. Is Sun Prism here? Rangawi, welcome. ICTs. So There he is. All right, Sun Prism, tell us the backstory to this game. Is there a backstory to this game? Do you want to tell us where this game came from? It wasn't played on lichess, I'm assuming, though it could be. Sun Prism says the following game is Sun Prism versus Etienne Bacro. And I was just wondering, like, where you played it. He was playing Blitz on the Evil Chess site. Uh-huh. Okay, and you, wow, that's so weird. All right. So you answered all my questions. First of all, I couldn't figure out what color you were, until I saw the result and just assumed, okay, you had to be white. Then I'm like, why is Sun Prism playing D4, And clearly you didn't really know what you're doing in the opening. It's like, why in the world would you play an opening you don't know against Etienne Bacro? So now I understand. So it's an Etienne Bacro opening theme stream. Okay. So there was another funny note I saw. C4. I don't know if Schieberspieler is still here. He might find this amusing. But there was the women's, Grand Prix, which was totally dominated by Indian and Chinese players, of course. 7 out of 8 of the finalists from India and China. America, go, go, go. And Hungary eliminated in round 1. But, oops, sorry, Joe Kagal. Schieberspieler, they got, I don't know, Pop Petra to analyze the games for the Women's Grand Prix. And she just happened to make this odd comment that I thought very strange. People have some strange ideas, but Pop Petra was analyzing some game from the Women's Grand Prix, and it was a Queen's Gambit accepted. And get this, she says, the solid Queen's Gambit accepted. I'm just like, I don't think so, sister. If you think that the Queen's Gambit accepted is solid, I mean, that's a perverse sort of concept, I introduced you to the Queen's Gambit declined. It's just an odd sounding, comment that I think a lot of people don't really understand what they're talking about. There may be solid ways to play the Queen's Gambit accepted. But this is fundamentally not a solid thing to do, I'm sorry, that's your strong point in the center, and you're playing hyper-modern chess now. I don't see that the Queen's Gambit accepted is solid. It's just a very odd comment. People play it, and they can play it later in a solid way, but it's still not a solid opening. I completely disagree. So, anyway, it's more solid than, say, like, the Queen's Gambit accepted is more solid than the Albin. I agree. Anyway, I think of d takes c4. I think the Queen's Gambit accepted is an aggressive opening. You're giving up your strong point. You're playing hyper-modern chess. You're allowing white to have the center, and then you're counter-attacking. Not really solid. Anyway, I'm not trying to bash, Pop Petra. It just was a funny comment. A lot of people misconceive chess a little bit. So now, Schieberspieler, we're going to enjoy this. This is Sun Prism's game. White has so many options, right, against Queen's Gambit accepted, but take an e4 player and make him play the white side of the Queen's Gambit accepted. I think that most people would probably play e3, which is very safe. We're going to try to recapture the pawn with the bishop. There's also the more patient knight f3, the very aggressive e4. You could probably play knight c3, kind of gambit. But Schieberspieler plays queen a4 check, And you know, when the guy who stole my watch is the second highest rated player on the on the database, then you gotta wonder about Queen A4 check. Well, anyway, he's the number one suspect of the 1996 watch theft in Australia. Michael Freeman of New Zealand, who's apparently a very strong correspondence player. He was the number one suspect of stealing my very valuable watch from a round robin tournament in 1996. My opponent at the time, still not convicted, though I don't know. I might have to take the case up. All right, Queen A4 check. You know, the problem is black has Knight C6. You probably took Buckrow by surprise with this move. You know, he's 2,700, or used to be, but it's not like he's playing this position every day. He's probably playing fast. But in all honesty, if black plays Knight C6, I don't see how you're getting a pawn. You know, how you're not getting your pawn back. I mean, you're not getting your pawn back right away, at least, after this move. I think that might be black's best, but I'm not an expert. I mean, I'm just guessing, you know. Knight C6 seems like a strong move. What are you supposed to do? E3? Let's see what the engine says. Yeah, black is clearly better after E5. You do get the pawn back? You do get the pawn back. So E5. This is subtle, though. You know, and nobody sits around, you know, trying to refute Queen A4 against the Queen's Gambit accepted. That's as much as I know. I think all I knew is that Knight C6 is, like, probably best. Actually, the computer doesn't think it's best. Interesting. Well, maybe Buckrow knows more than me. All right. I still like Knight C6. Screw the computer. Man, Knight F3. Look at the black score here. Knight F3. Knight F6. And you get your pawn back to Queen C4. All right, true. So there's more games than I thought here. Okay, I mean, to be honest, like, Queen A4 has probably been analyzed. But maybe it's more common, like, on move later. Do people play, like, Knight F3, Knight F6, Queen A4 check? Yeah. So you're going to see this more often. And maybe I was confusing it with this. This is much more common. First you defend the pawn, and then you play Queen A4 check. But here the computer argues for Knight C6 as well. Okay, I don't know. There's Carl Sonaro in it. So this is an actual line. Okay, Queen A4 check, very rare right away. He plays Knight D7. That's actually fine. Queen takes C4. You don't need to take the pawn right away. It's not going anywhere. It doesn't have B5. So you could just play Knight F3. That's the recommended move. Alright, Zoltan Varga with black against Karadžića. That's a real surprise. Who would play weird defenses. And Karadžića is a really interesting player. Okay, there's two very creative grandmasters playing against each other there, by the way, opening-wise. So you took right away. This is some sort of inaccuracy. You got your queen out early against the grandmaster. And then E5. Theoretical novelty. But E5 can't be a bad move. Very principled move by Buckrow. And now if you play Knight F3, why not play Knight F3? Well, you're not familiar with the opening, you know. So if you play Knight F3 and he pushes, you have this move. And then things would get really weird. Black can play Queen E7, and I have no idea what's going on. That's probably good for you. Anyway, he's not going to push. So you could play Knight F3. But you didn't know that, so you played Knight C3. And now he trades, which he also doesn't have to do. You take g7 is hanging, so bishop c5 doesn't work. So he goes here. Now black's starting to develop with bishop c5. You play knight f3, and black plays bishop c5, attacking f2. And so now we have a question about like where to put your queen. My instinct would be, Arsenal fan would say I would put the queen on h4. My instinct would be to kind of look at it like a Scandinavian, You have options. Queen f4 looks kind of exposed. Queen a4 feels safer. Queen d2 and queen d1. Queen d3. Maybe queen d3. This move is serious. It's a serious move. It can come back. It's like a Scandinavian queen d6 line. Probably see this. e3, castles, bishop e2. I don't know, c6, castles. Looks like a totally balanced game. But you put the queen on c4, which I think is a little bit risky. Your queen is a bit exposed there compared to d3. More exposed than on d3. So the thing is, on d3, you have this ability to come back to c2. And I like it. What's up, Mr. Coffee? So if you played more queen d6 Scandinavians, you would have played queen d3. I don't feel this is principled. The queen's outside the pawn structure. It looks isolated out there. Yeah, a4 is normal too, but it might be more out of play. Maybe d3 is the best. Let's see what the computer says. Yeah, it is best. Karajitsa would play queen d3. He's a huge expert on the queen d6. One of the big experts on the queen d6 Scandinavian. All right, queen c4, castles, and now remember, it's Etienne Bacro is black, and Sun Prism, who doesn't even play d4, is playing white. So I don't even know what this is. The e-file looks threatening. My first reaction would be e3 to get my king the hell out of the center. But Sun Prism plays a riskier bishop g5, which costs some time. Another thing about bishop g5 is that this pin is no deal. It's nothing because he's overprotected. But it's natural, to want to play aggressively and get your bishop outside the pawn chain. If you play e3, it's blocked in. Right. No, you're in an unfamiliar structure. Other option is g3, but then you have to deal with all this crap. Knight g4 doesn't work. That's a good benefit of queen c4. Well, let's say c6. Bishop g2. I mean, maybe I like g3 better. As always, our king side is a bit safer after g3. So bishop g5, c6, natural move, and now e3, queen e7, now bishop e2, and now he plays h6, and this is... I mean, clearly we don't want to give that bishop up for nothing, but you might have a tactic. No, he just takes back with a knight. Okay. You can't take, so it's either h4 or f4. You can take, but you shouldn't take. So, did you think about h4? I'm just kidding. Maybe Hubner. Is Mr. Slow still here? Hubner Spassky. Or Asterbait would have played h4. Or it's like Arsenal fan on acid. The scary thing, like, this move actually might be sound. But even if it's sound, it's not good. Assuming that we can sack the knight in, and we can attack down the h-file, and we're winning there or better. Obviously, Bacro could give a shit. He doesn't give a shit about h4. He's going to just develop his pieces. And ultimately, we're going to have to play like Schumacher. You know, Schumacher would have played this. Notice black's not taking that. Alright, no, I'm just joking around. So, alright, but why, you know, or how do you decide between h4 and f4? Ultimately, h4 is more consistent, isn't it? Why break your own pin? You know what I mean? Is this scary? No, I don't think so. We want him to play g5. So I think you need a good reason to go to f4. I mean, are you scared of sacks here on e3? Okay, it's a blitz game, so we don't have to overanalyze it, but I wanted to know if there's a concrete reason why you prefer not to go here. Because I think it makes more sense to keep the pin a little bit. Here, queen b3. There's another case of queen d3. But ultimately, I don't know if it matters that much. Because either way, you're going to get hit by enemy pieces. And going to end up back to c2. Alright, that's what happens. So you're back on c2. Here. Now your bishop got hit. But it is defending against sacks on e3. So now... I mean, I didn't analyze this game with the computer, but Sun Prism managed to make it competitive in an opening he doesn't play against 2700. Bishop e5. And now Bacro, who's better here, although he's kind of played like, I don't know, Michel Godena or something. He hasn't done anything special. He's trying to... that's his style, though. I mean, Bacro is very solid. He's a very... from what I've seen, Bacro is a very correct player. You know, he is really straightforward, quite correct. But he goes for this now, and this is strong. You have a problem. c2 and d3. So he goes for the d3. He's going to get your bishop. Here's a big question. I mean, you should have castled here. This looks like a no-brainer. I mean, you're basically like just weakening your light squares and losing a tempo. If he comes in, he's going to come in anyway. You're just going to take anyway. Maybe you could even trap his rook, you know, on d3. This looks like a terrible mistake. You know, a3 doesn't derive much benefit for you. It forces him to do what he's going to do anyway, and it weakens your white squares at b3. So now your king is in the center, so no thoughts of trapping that rook at d3. You got to get out, and now bishop takes f6. But another slightly debatable decision. Looks like we should castle. Thank you, Sheba Spiller. Good to see you. And I hope that we're going to be seeing more of you. Good game from the archives. Sun Prism, why would you trade on f6 unprovoked here? So you must see something you don't like. Castles is totally natural. And yes, you're worse. But I want to know why. I'm just seeing you making impulsive moves. This decision to trade... Oh, no, you had a reason in this case. Okay. You're threatening knight e4. Alright, right. You had a reason. That was nice. Okay, I forgot. This is a good move. Bacro overlooked it, actually. So we need to go back and look at this. Here has some sense because boom, boom, and so Sun Prism has a tactic. So if queen takes, knight e4. I saw it when you first sent the game, but then I forgot about it. This actually works. So you justified your a3. Can we say that you refuted his plan? No. Because this isn't fatal. He accepts this, rightfully accepts this bad structure to keep the two bishops. Now you castled, and now rook fd8. I keep thinking that there's some way you can exploit his position here. This is a very tempting move. I want to get rid of his bishop pair, you know, at some point. He's dominating the d-file anyway. Obviously you have knight e4. Doesn't really do anything. Now I think this, the whole thing about his rook being on d3, you're not losing. I mean, you can lose in the endgame, okay? Let's say bishop takes d4, pawn takes d4, rook takes d4. You lose on the queen side to a 3-on-2. But I mean, this particular case, you're taking on h6 right away. So you're like, you're fine. He can't really do that. Maybe he should play king g7. Okay, so queen c2, you just go for exchanges. Yeah, this is a compromise. So Buckrow wants to maybe give up attacking chances to trade queens, fix his pawn structure. I don't like what happened here, you know. I still say you should have gone for knight d4. Let's see. Computer does the line I said. Takes, king g7. And black is still better. You're probably going to drop that pawn. So it's not so clear. Computer thinks your move is best. Queen c2, bishop f5, queen b3, queen e6. But I just don't like trading queens and fixing his pawn structure here. I don't think you can fix his pawn structure here. This is too big of a concession for you. So he's guarded b7. You have no other squares for your queen except for a4. It's a tough move to play against a strong player who's allowing you to trade queens, and you figure, oh, maybe I have chances to draw. But fixing his pawn structure is huge. Again, I would consider sacking a pawn. It's definitely not good now. King f1. Every little concession you make, you're like getting closer and closer to giving him a winning position. That's the trick of playing for a draw. Vera Menchik versus Capablanca. Very famous game. It was in, I think, the most attractive chess games ever played by Chernev. She had an okay position, but just slowly made these little concessions, and we've all done this. Trading, giving him the open file. Now it's good that you didn't panic and play like rook d1. Now you played rook d1 when you're not going to have your knight driven back. And now, what do you guys think about this endgame? The queenside majority is a real killer. If the pawn structure were symmetrical, you'd probably be fine. I mean, it's bad enough to be facing the two bishops, but you don't want the guy to have a passed pawn. And he's going to get a passed pawn, most likely. We wish this structure was relatively symmetrical. Like, if you can put your H pawn on C2, then I think black is very hard-pressed to win. Is going to be very hard-pressed to win. But with this structure, his isolated pawn doesn't really matter. That's his weaker side, and he has a healthy queen side. Of course, two bishops are better than two knights. But the question is it winning? Is it enough to win? And maybe still it's not enough to win. But the pawn structure with the bishops, the queenside majority is very strong for black. He's also going to be able to get his king to center. Why didn't you play e4 right away? So he plays h5. Looks like you can play e4 here. I don't know if it's enough. Actually, I don't know if you should do it. But you can't let his king get really strong. I mean, that's the other thing, is that his king is closer to the center than yours. So I think you have to take a stand, like, spatially at some point. If you play e4, probably bishop e6. And then he'll try to reposition his bishop there. You have a problem with your f2 pawn. Yeah, this is an issue. Alright. Yeah, play e4. King e2 is good. Let's say king e2, bishop e6, knight d2. You played knight d2, alright. Knight d2, bishop e6, knight d2, king e6. King e2. You played e4, but it's not necessary. I think king e2 looks better. And now f3. But why not king e2? Centralize your king, man. That's two moves you should have centralized your king. He's not threatening anything. His win is over here. If he's winning, it's the queenside majority that's going to kill you. But anyway, you should centralize your king. There comes the queenside majority. Can you blockade it? The answer is maybe you can. So if you play like b4, how is Bakro winning? Well, he has bishop g1 to start with. You have to play h3. But still, you have knight here, blockading the queen side. Let's say like king d6, knight b3, bishop f7, king c2, something like what happened in the game, maybe h4. And now, the question is, can he use his queenside majority or not? Or get his king very active? So let's see what happened. f3, b5, knight b3. Now, I don't like this. I think you should commit probably to b4. Here. This doesn't do you any good, because he's just going to play like a5 on your ass. Your best chance is b4 here. I expected this, yeah, something like this. Computer says he's clearly better. It's right on the margin of whether you're losing or you can hold a draw. I think you could probably, computer, if he's playing computer, he probably doesn't win. But this is a very tough position to defend. b5, this is probably wrong. I don't see any reason to put your knight on b3 in front of your pawn. This is definitely a clumsy move. And why is your king still on d1? At least put it on e2 or c2. Actually, c2 is asking for f5, though it may not be a problem. Here, okay, whatever. Now d2, okay? Now king d3. I actually expected him to play a6 now, supporting c5, but he plays that. I'm not sure bishop f7 is great, because he forces you to make a good move there with knight d2. I think he might have wanted to play a5, but this is an interesting idea with c5. No way to say if he's playing perfectly. It's a blitz game. But now a5, and here's. It looks to me like you should play b4. I mean, you are close to Zutzman, you know. And actually, a4 could be very strong. Yeah, maybe not. All right, let's hold off on the b4. So what should you do? This is tough. It's tough, man. a4. That is a cool idea. It's like pick a color complex. The computer wants to go with a4, try to play all in for the light squares. If you can pin him down to one color complex and really fortify one color complex, the ideal would be like this. It looks like he can't break through on the white squares. So what does he do? And king c5. This is probably why we would reject a4, right? This looks tough, and I would be terrified. He's actually able to walk in here. But king c5 is a bit awkward. Computer wants to play bishop c5. How does that work? A takes b5? No. No, it agrees. King c5. Alright, I just can't see. Has to play king c5. So a4 is a tough move to find. Let's look at b4. b4, a4. b4, a4. This I'm afraid of. It's too much space. Yeah. I didn't see a4 though. I missed this move. This is really a good try. So b3, similar idea. You're supporting a4, right? Bishop g1, h3, h4, now a4. But it's just a tiny bit slower, so he has time to get in there with king c5, king b4. That's why the a4 would have been stronger. Boom, boom. It's too late now. I don't even think you should exchange on b5. I don't know if you can hold this position. He's froze your kingside majority with his 3 pawns, right? He's used 3 pawns to stop 4, and now he has intentions on, making progress on the queen side. You might be lost here. You're very passive. But this looks like a concession, because now he has the ability to create a passed pawn more easily. I don't really want to do that. Do you have any other options? I think it's lost. Yeah. So I don't know. What can we say in retrospect? Here was your chance to play a4. I don't know if I would have seen it, but I definitely don't love b3. I'd probably play this if I had no other ideas, but I think he's going to slowly beat you with a4. What you're hoping for is this. I really think this may not be lost. They're not, you clarified the queen side to some degree. He still has chances to play for c5, but it would be what we were kind of hoping for. The really annoying thing about this position is the way you played the kingside was wrong. The way your kingside majority got frozen, and you can never play h4. This is a disaster. You can never play h4 because your pawn just goes after bishop f2. I mean, this is literally a disaster. The fact that you can't use your kingside majority. You can't play g3 because of bishop g1. I mean, can you? No. I mean, you can play g3, h3, but it's pointless. Bishop f2, g4, what's the point? He ends up in the same... You're still blockaded. The whole f3 thing is a mistake, yeah. Your majority got frozen. But it's amazing that you still have drawing chances, even here. I wonder about a6 for him. An alternative way of playing. Computer doesn't really buy it. Alright. No, it looks like he played pretty well. Now it's lost. Too much. That's obviously fatal. Yeah, model game by Bacro. But that's what he does. Alright, and finally, Mule Skinner submitted a game. Alright, I'll be Sorry, guys. My pillow fell off. I gotta, like, move every hour or so before my legs get, like, blood clots. Alright. So this is Mule Skinner. What did he say? How are we doing on time? We got plenty of time. It's 9:37. I don't know. Have you guys has anybody else noticed that today I'm suddenly getting flooded with, like, people, like, with team requests? Has anyone else had this happen? 12 viewers. The analysis stream is always killing it. But anyone else notice the floodgates seem to be down? I'm getting all sorts of... I'm a title player, so maybe people are more likely to... But I'm getting all these team requests. I guess they just do it to the title players. Okay. Guys, please donate. World Senior 2025. October 2025. This will be my 4th try. Please donate and support the stream. We've got Mule Skinner, and what did he say about it? If it's not too late, I've got a game. I just finished. You're black. Alright, so this is a live game, I think. I'm assuming this is an over-the-board game. Yeah, 90 plus 30. You got one, but I promptly put it in the bin. You got a team request. Yeah, I think, like, somehow, like, the spam blockers are down or something. I mean, I never got, like, so many requests in one day. So, Mule Skinner is black. It's a French. For something new and totally different. Knight F3. And now D5. And now Knight C3. Now, I have played this a lot with white. And there are several different ways for black to play. Knight F6. And D4. And I don't really like transposing to a Rubinstein, so black needs to play either Knight F6 or D4. Once in a while, you'll run into a Bishop E4, and that's also playable as well. But Knight F6 is main line. I like it the best. And so, you know, black is really honestly hoping for an exchange variation. But we get a proper Nimzovich variation. Nimzovich, of course, you know, famous for popularizing this line. E5, Knight F D7, and now D4, and now C5, and then here, white has more than one move, but the main move is D takes C5, and now black has Knight C6. So I have played this against Mule Skinner. If we look, player, Sparkle Horse has white. This is like a default repertoire of mine with white. In Blitz, I played this many times with Blitz. Not really. I don't know if I have any tournament games in my life. So, only 7 games here. That's very surprising. Many more that were played on other chess sites, especially on like chess. What's this called? ICC. I've been playing this line in Blitz a long time, but actually, you know, I didn't always play E5. I would often play like garbage here. Look, I have 17 games with Bishop D3. Very good score too. This is a sort of Kopek variation against the French, but just a Blitz repertoire. I'm not serious about that. It's not really good. White's only good move here is E5. And then after Knight FD7, there is an alternative for white here that I was thinking about recently. Knight E2. So let's look at the Masters database. Doesn't score great, but you know, who's playing it? You know, Laston has a draw with Dreyev. All right. I mean, Knight E2, the idea is that you cleared the way for your C pawn, support the center with D4. So, for example, C5, C3. And what's black going to do? C4, it's a weird move. It's possible. Anyways, that's an offbeat line. So we have e5, knight fd7, d4, c5, main line, d takes c5, and now normally we see a lot of knight c6. That's what you played. Black doesn't have to decide which pawn to take yet. Having said that, black can also take with the bishop. Actually, you can take both ways. Knight takes c5 has very few games played with it. Oddly, very few games played with knight takes c5. And bishop takes c5 feels like you're developing a piece. Even Lebojevic-Petrosyan, 1973. Black can play all three different ways. Knight c6 is considered to be the most common. Bishop f4, and now you have a choice. Knight takes or bishop takes. Bishop takes developing a piece. But Mule Skinner with a new move, I've never looked at this. So if we look at my games, we'll have very few with white, just 2. I have a game against Sung Prism from last year. Interestingly enough, someone actually played a6 against me here. Wow. A game from 2021. Mule Skinner's secret account. So a6 is some kind of secret move. And it's been played by some good players. This Ivanchuk character, Yuri Krupa, Jonathan Spielman, number 5. But anyways, okay, obviously you're stopping knight b5. c5 still can't be defended, so what's wrong with a6? Nothing. Bishop d3, and now knight takes c5. So, Sladgy, yes. We're following exact game I had. Now white can castle either way in this type of position. Castle kingside or castle queenside. God, I remember like years ago at the Isle of Man, Stephen Giddens playing against a very young Alexander Kostenyuk, where now I don't even remember. I think Kostenyuk was white, and Giddens did one of these things where he went like here with his knight in, and I don't know if that's a good idea, because if your knight goes off the side, you lose control of the center. Even taking the bishop at d3 can sometimes be a mistake. So castles, and now knight takes c3. You played the exact same move that my opponent did in 2021. But let's check the proper database here. Okay, so we're still following Ilya Schneider versus Ivanchuk. The threat is stronger than the execution. I mean, what's white going to do? Play bishop e2? So the moral of the story is that you don't have to take that bishop yet. You can wait. I mean, what am I going to do? Seriously, retreat the bishop back to e2? There is one possibility of rook e1. So when we see someone, by the way, Spassky playing it with white, wow, bishop e2, see rook e1, is that a good move? Rook e1, with the idea of bishop back to f1. That might be better than bishop e2, but the bishop tucks itself out of the way. See? Now, do you want to take this bishop? Or do you want to dare to let it go back to f1? So check this out. Spassky Prie. Somebody played g5. Some strong players. Arizmendi, Elizabeth Pates. Very aggressive play here by black. A little crazy. The vast majority of players playing bishop e7 going for g5. But what's the best move for white? Is it really rook e1? What happens if h4? Bishop takes h4. It prevents h4. Oh my god. No more freaking Robert Hubner. Dude, this prevents h4. It's a brilliancy. Oh my god. That's why they played bishop e7. Well, white castling isn't forced. He can play h4 right away. Oh no. Secret move. Alexander Kostyuk, 1999. No. What did I just say? Stephen Giddens turned into a woman. That's unbelievable. Oh no. It's Alexander Kostyuk against Degubwadze, 1999. Whatever happened to her? She was 2505 in 99. So this move makes tons of sense for white. Preventing g5 before it happens. That is a very strong idea. Good to know. I like h4. Alexander Danyan, who's a GM, also has played this move. Okay, so castle's a little too routine by white. Now this might be a mistake. Knight takes e3, and now Demo had a game against Jürgen Brushkern. Demo's much stronger than Brushkern. They were very good friends, but in my opinion, it's not close. Demo, Demo played knight takes c3, and Brushkern took with the pawn, but it is a little bit more unusual to take with the pawn. I think it's playable in some positions. This isn't a ridiculous move by Brushkern, but your opponent took with the queen. So now we transpose to one game. I can't imagine it could be a mistake to take on d3, eliminating a dangerous piece. Bishop e7. Why not bishop e7, threatening your old g5 friend? It's funny because Muleskinner does this coming up, but now white can't prevent it. Although maybe in the game he can't prevent it anyway. So bishop d7, a3, very lame move here, threatening g5, g5 h5 here. So it looks like white's threatening h4 essentially. So you have a chance now to decide what you want to do. You can castle, it's very solid, or you can go fully Elizabeth Pate style with g5 and go for the gusto. But it's kind of a strange move now by Muleskinner. I don't understand playing queen b6. If you wanted to play g5, it feels like you should play g5 directly. This looks... Well, you're certainly not really going to seriously take this pawn on b2. You're going to get queen trapped. And the plan seems to be to castle queenside. I was anticipating b4. But this seems like unnecessarily risky. Would it be better to just go g5 right away? I mean, I can imagine there's even some situations where the black king might walk over there. Believe it or not. So after g5, I like black. Wow. Computer actually likes... has this game been submitted to the FIDE cheat detection team? Jesus Christ. Muleskinner's queen b6 is the engine's #1 move. I would have either played g5 or castled. I would probably think about b5, rook c8. I don't think I would ever play queen b6. Wow, that's wild. That's the number one move of the computer. And now black plays b4, kind of natural reaction. And now g5, which he should have played, in my opinion, already. And now here, doesn't help. Castles queenside. I mean, white's attack on the queenside is pretty advanced after b4. That's why I don't really like this, you know. If you want to do it, do g5 right away. Queen b6. Still, I'm not castling into that. You also have knight a7. This isn't so bad, is it? Kind of passive. I like g5, but you don't have to castle. Why don't you just continue with the attack? Castle only if you have to. White has no, you know, his only threat is knight a4. It actually doesn't really do anything. I mean, you could even play queen a7. You could even play queen b5. But I don't agree with you casting queenside. It looks risky. Now knight e2. But he should go for it with like knight a4 here. Knight e2, and you're almost trapping his bishop. h5, h4. Okay. G takes h4. Now, shouldn't white consider trading bishops, maybe? If he can hold the blockade, but he can't. So if he takes the bishop, he loses his e-pawn. That's not great. Takes the knight. Now, this is more risky. You know, if you leave him with this bishop that's wide open, I don't know. So, here, okay, king h2. This is a strong move. And now the totally insane king h3. I guess he had no choice, though. Wow. Wow, rook g4 is just brutal. So in retrospect, man, there's also this diagonal. That queen really, the queen really plays. You're threatening rook takes g3 in this position. It might be like lost for white. Pretty nearly lost. Yeah, he has this. Wow. See, there's no need for you to castle queenside, but still it worked out. All right, rook g4 here, 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 and we're winning. Oh, that was a nice move. He has to take on h5. So what's the final thing? He resigned here after queen takes f2 check? You gotta play king h5. Come on. I can't believe he resigned in that position. Okay, you're winning. But at least play one more move. Where's the mate? Queen g3? It's still no mate. He's gonna sack his queen. He's gonna have to sack his queen. Right? Great game by Muleskinner, though. The only place you made a mistake was castling, it looks like. Queen b6 turned out to be an interesting move. It had a lot of value. But, you know, why did white retreat his bishop back to g3 voluntarily? Bishop e7. Okay, you're threatening g5, so he went back. He can't stop it. He can't stop it. So that's pretty accurate, actually. Bishop g3, queen b6. Hold on a second now. Couldn't white have played h4 now? After queen b6? Yeah. I mean, you can still do h6. And black can play h5. He should try it. You know, that seems better than what he did. Anyway, alright guys. Thank you for watching, Mr. Coffee. One of these days, you're going to have to submit one of your games for the analysis stream. Because we're running out of games. I'm running out of days to live. But, no. Everything's alright. Enjoy your summer, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to Mr. Was Once Better at Chess. And Astrobate and who else was here? Snedsteg got a job. Mr. Coffee got a job. Mr. Coffee had a job. thanks King's Indian Defense for analyzing with us, even though he's not a subscriber. We appreciate it. I'm gonna grab some dinner, guys. It was good analyzing with you, and I'll see you. We'll see you tomorrow for some Blitz. Friday stream, short stream, 2 hours. Friday around 12:30, and that's 12:30 CEST, and then Sunday simul, 6:30 p.m. CEST. Regular schedule indeed. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'll see you on Friday. Bye bye, Mr. Coffee, Master Bean. See you all, Mr. Slow.